Welcome to Getting to Know You. Today's a special program because we've never done this before. We are telling a story with chapters, and it's a cautionary tale. And we actually have both the author, who's going to tell us the story, but the main character. Now, we don't have the cavalry coming in and saving him, but it's something like that that's also arrived, and it is especially for Stonebridge. I think, and I hope you will remember this for a number of reasons, but it's very much a tale of our times. So I'd like to introduce Bud Varrin, and he's in the Valentine neighborhood, right? And somehow there was word around Stonebridge that he had had an incident about scam, which of course everybody worries about. And so it sounded intriguing to me, and I called him. I said, would you tell us this? This sounds like something that would be good to use as advice in disguise. So here we go. Once upon a time, about a month ago, you had something happen to you that a lot of people have on your computer. You saw something.
Yes. It was a Wednesday afternoon. I had logged onto my computer. I think I was Googling something, and a message popped up on my screen with a very serious message. The message was, we have detected that your bank account is being interfered with, or is scammed. I don't think he used the word scam. Your bank account, they're trying to transfer money from your bank account to some other location. And we, as an agency, monitor these things. And we wanted to let you know that we're willing to help you in any way to resolve this problem. So if you're interested in help, assistance, please call the number on the screen. And the number on the screen had a little apple next to it, which gave me a clue that it might have been something to do with Apple. So anyway, I called the number on the screen, and a very, very professional gentleman answered and said, our agency is responsible for helping people resolve these issues. If you're interested in getting some help, we'll help you. So, well, what do I have to do? He said, nothing. You just have to tell us some stuff, and we'll pursue it. And he said, but there's some ground rules, and the ground rules are, don't call your local bank, because they may be part of the problem. Don't use your phone for anything other than what we're telling you to do, or to asking you to do is a better way to put it. And we're going to do something else. We want you to give us a password. So anytime somebody from our agency calls you, we want you to ask them what the password is before you talk to them. So lo and behold, that started a whole afternoon of back and forth on the phone.
And you couldn't detect an accent?
I couldn't detect that, particularly the first man. There was absolutely no accent. The first man was very, again, I keep using the word because it's true, calm and professional. We're here to help you, and we're from the government. He didn't say that, but that's what the impression was. So they proceeded to ask me some questions about, well, I had some clues in this questioning Q&A, because at one point he said, your bank is Bank of America, right? I said, no, it's PNC. He said, oh, okay, it's PNC.
Yeah.
Sort of realized.
Well, it's just down the street here in Princeton,
I know,
so.
but they didn't know my bank.
Yeah.
So they were telling me that money was being hacked from my banking account,
But they didn't
know the bank.
Yeah.
So that was, in the heat of the moment, that was not, I didn't register on that. So I was not happy, but I was telling them, no, it's PNC. So we're going to start working with PNC to try to resolve this issue. So the first thing we want to do is get you to a person who's going to work with PNC in Pittsburgh. So they knew it was a Pittsburgh bank. So they said, we're going to turn you over to a representative of the Federal Trade Commission. It was the first time anybody mentioned anything like that.
That's two little things that didn't sound
it didn't sound right. Federal Trade Commission, although who knows, they could have been involved.
Yeah.
Anyway, another man got on who was very, very professional again, and told me that they were going to contact somebody in Pittsburgh. And he used a very interesting word. He said, we're going to try to find someone who will be your guru. My guru in Pittsburgh. So this is a series of phone calls. I didn't have a continuous conversation, but they would call me back.
And they called you back.
They called me back.
And you gave them a password. So
I said, what is the password? And he told me the password. Like, so true. So that was working probably 6 or 7 times during the afternoon. So he said, my guru, the guru in Pittsburgh is going to try to resolve this. So the whole thing proceeded for basically the whole afternoon until almost 4 o'clock. And he said, well, I have to back up. At one point I said, there are enough clues here that I'm going to call my daughter.
You said to yourself.
I said to myself,
Yeah.
I'm going to call my daughter and ask her to look at my bank account, which she has access to. So I called my younger daughter, and she looked, and she said, nothing's happened to your bank account. No one touched it. It's completely there. So at that point, I knew it was a scam. But the crazy thing happened. 5 minutes later, the second gentleman called back and said, we've protected your money. It's taken care of. We're good. We're good. And I felt, well, okay, well, thank you. And that was it. He said, no. You wanted chapter 2?
Yep, you ready?
Ready for chapter 2.
Okay, so what you were thinking, your daughter found out that nothing had happened,
Right.
but they were coming back to you. And so you had to think about, do I want to drop this, or do I want to see where this goes?
They came back to me with the same message that it had been restored. The bank account had been restored.
Oh, restored, okay.
So whatever was alleged didn't happen.
Right.
And therefore, at that point, I knew it was either a scam or at least a happy ending.
Right. Now, at what point, I'm not sure if I'm heading into chapter 2 too fast, you also talked to your son.
No, that was the next morning.
Okay, so now we're into chapter 2.
Into
You
chapter
slept
2.
on it overnight.
And thinking that, end of story, I wasn't going to do anything. I wasn't going to do anything. The guy, but he said, there's something more we have to do. It's very important. You have to trust us. It's part of the process. I said, what is that? He said, you have to go to your bank and take $15,000 in cash from your banking account. Tell them it's for a contractor who's giving you a big discount. You need this $15,000 cash. I said, no, I'm going to think about that. He said, no, you have to do that. I said, well, it's almost 4 o'clock and the bank is closed.
Right. Yeah, okay.
The bank is closed.
Lucky for you. Yeah.
Lucky for me. He said a cute thing, so I didn't know what time it was there.
Oh.
So, wherever he was, he didn't know what time it was, because he didn't know where I was. That came out later.
Okay.
So I ended that conversation saying, end of story. I'm not going to go to the bank. I'm not going to get any money out of the bank. They didn't touch my bank account, and whoever these people are, let them go.
Right.
Play a cut.
But you had your suspicions then.
I knew it was a scam.
Okay.
I knew it was a scam because he wouldn't tell me why they wanted the $15,000. The $15,000 just came up as out of the blue. Trust me, it's part of the process. We have to do it. So I didn't go to the bank. I slept on that with the understanding that I wasn't going to do anything. But I did call my son the next morning.
Okay, this is starting chapter 2.
So starting chapter 2.
Okay.
And my son, I told him a quick story. He said, call the police. I said, what are the police going to do? He said, never mind, call the police. Well, it turns out I didn't have the number for the police, so I called.
But you told me you remembered the Princeton number.
I remembered the Princeton number, which wouldn't have done it. The Montgomery Police is what I wanted to have it now, by the way. So I called 911 and I said to the nice woman in 911, I want to get a hold of the Montgomery Police because I have a tale to tell them. And she said, you have to tell me the tale first. But
only chapter 1.
Yeah, right, but it ended with the $15,000 request.
Right,
So she wanted the whole, not the whole thing, but basically what happened. And she said, okay, I'm going to turn you over to the police now. So that was Thursday morning. In the meantime, and I've lost track of this sequence, I got a call from the man, Mr. X, whatever who he was, said, did you go to the bank? I said, no, the bank's not open yet. So I don't know whether it was after my son's call or before my son's call, but anyway, the police got on the phone and they said, we need you to do us a big favor. I said, what is that? If you're willing to play along with this whole sequence, this whole scenario, we would look. Usually we find out after something is, people have either completed the thing or cut off in the middle of the road and therefore there's no A to Z. He said, if you're willing to cooperate with us, we would like to go from A, which you've already done, to Z, which is the culmination of this whole process. I said, okay, I'll be willing to do it. And so the next thing I know, in the meantime, I'm getting calls, did you go to the bank? Did you go to the bank? I said, no, I didn't go to the bank. And, so at that point, the police asked me to play along.
Right.
So I was playing along.
This was on the phone. They hadn't arrived.
They hadn't arrived yet, but he
Okay.
was calling, because he somewhere, wherever it was in the world, was telling me that I had to go to the bank, he had to go to the bank. I mean, he wasn't dramatic, he said, you have to go to the bank, it's very important. So I was, okay, well, anyway, at that point, the police said, we're coming over. And two nice gentlemen, a detective and a sergeant, came to my house, to the cottage, and I gave them all the details again. In the meantime, we're getting phone calls from this fellow saying, go to the bank, go to the bank. And it was cute because I had the speakerphone on, and the policeman was holding up signs, tell him you're gonna go to the bank.
Yeah, we should have a sign.
Tell him you're gonna go to the bank. And so I said, okay, I'll go to the bank, I'll go to the bank, and hung up. So, of course, I never went to the bank, but that was the story.
So
he was-
now you had two police in your house.
and shortly thereafter, I don't remember exactly when, a lieutenant showed up.
Well, I
So-
remember I asked you if they came in their marked cars, but they
No,
didn't.
in fact, I should back up a minute. When they came, I said, now, what's happening? And he said, you see that white pickup across at the parking lot? That's an unmarked police car. There's a gray sedan unmarked police car down Valentine. And there's two or three at that point, two or three
See,
of
I
us
told you it was on
in the kitchen.
Valentine.
And there's one at the entrance to Stonebridge, in case you got that far. So, anyway, to make, that was the setup.
So there were like 6 people.
There were a total of 6, there were at least 6 policemen in unmarked car, either in the house or in unmarked cars on the site.
So that's the posse drive.
That's the cut them off at the pass. So that was, it was a long day, because eventually I got a phone call saying, did you go to the bank? I said, yes, I went to the bank. I said, I mean, I didn't get it dramatically. I said, yes, I went to the bank. Did they give you a hard time? No, they were fine. They gave me, I told them your story about the contractor. Anyway, that was my story to them. So then he said, well, I'll get back to you. And so the next thing he did, and I'm maybe jumping ahead, because it was a full afternoon.
But the police were all around you.
Police were all over, 3 of them in the kitchen and 3 of them on the site.
Okay.
And so finally got a call from him saying, text me your address. So at that point, I figured out they didn't know where I lived. Even though they thought they knew my bank account. They didn't know where I lived. So the policeman actually texted my address.
No.
And he said, okay. He said, I'll tell you what, give me a few minutes to make an arrangement. So next thing we know, he called back about 2:30 and said, the courier is an hour and a half away. So the courier will be there in an hour and a half. So we figured that, he knew where I lived, he finally figured out where he had a courier. I said to the policeman, if I lived in St. Louis, he'd find somebody in St. Louis.
Right, yeah.
Well, anyway, that was a guess. So we actually waited for 2.5 hours.
So did you buy them lunch?
No, I didn't. I forget. It's interesting because I don't think I ate. I don't think they ate. It was, but they were wonderful, really nice, good, professional people. Again, he keep using that word because the people on the bad end were professional.
Right.
The people on the good end were professional. And so the 2.5 hours went. I think he called a couple times saying, hang on because he's on his way or something like that. So lo and behold, about a few minutes before 4 on Thursday afternoon, a black car pulled up in front of the cottage. And he rolled down the window behind the driver, the back seat window behind the driver. And Mr. X, who was on the phone with me, said, I have to back up a minute. They gave a very explicit instructions on how to prepare the envelope. So they get a manila envelope of very large size, put the money in there, and wrap it in plastic. And even the police said, what's that all about? But anyway, the policeman took saran wrap from under the kitchen sink and wrapped it around the envelope. And I had my name on it and my birthday. I forget what it was. So at that point, he knew, he may not even have known my name until that point.
Uh-huh.
And so I sent him a picture of the envelope.
Mhm.
And he said, that's perfect. Okay.
Oh, you get high marks for that.
The policeman did anyway. And so the man pulled the car up, the back window went down, and the man, Mr. X, and whoever he was, said, he wants you to go out and throw it in the back window. The policeman said, no. The policeman said, no. I said, no, I'm not leaving the house. I called it a house. I'm not leaving the house. I'll be at the front door, but I'm not leaving the house. He said, well, anyway, he has to know, I'm giving him a password. You have to ask him what the password is. If he comes to the house, ask him what the password is, and it's discover. The password is discover.
Discover.
I don't know, it's the other fellows. So lo and behold, I saw him on the phone in the car, the black car, obviously talking to Mr. X, whoever it was. And he, finally, I heard from Mr. X that he'll come to the front door. He'll come to the front door. Okay, then I'll meet him at the front door. He said, but remember, ask him for the password. Okay. I'll ask for the password. So this gentleman
I'm
came.
going to remember that. I'll use the password.
Yeah. But he came to the front door. I opened the door. I handed him the package, and 3 policemen from just behind the little wall in my kitchen rushed out and grabbed him. And so there he was, took him to the curb, handcuffed him, and started talking to, questioning him. At that point, I was out of the picture. I was,
Yeah, they forgot about you.
yeah. The interesting thing is, and I shouldn't even mention this, I couldn't even, it happened so fast, if somebody asked me to describe the courier, I couldn't have done it. It's just one of those things.
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
But he said, discover, I handed him the package, he went to the car. And really, that was the end of the
So
dramatic part.
that's the end of,
Yeah.
and all the police just disappeared with him.
No, they were out there for quite a while.
With him.
With him.
With him.
Yes.
Okay.
They had handcuffed him, and they told me there was a phone in the car, but they had had to have a warrant to get the phone. They didn't have a warrant. But the policeman told me something else was very interesting. There was another package in the car, wrapped in plastic. So apparently he had 2 stops. And New York license plates from New York. So we knew the hour and a half made sense because when he found out where I lived, he then found somebody in New York to come down to get it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to editorialize, this man may be completely innocent, but the whole fact that he took the back window down and said, throw it in the...
Well, he was probably told to do that,
Yeah,
so...
anyway, I don't know how... So, that was the end of the story. They questioned him, they took him in a police car back to the station. A tow truck came to get the car, took his car away, and that was the end of the story.
And you said that they then, part of the police set it up so that he really couldn't get out.
Oh, yes, I should have mentioned that. The minute...
Because I was thinking about the posse knowing exactly what to do.
The minute I handed the courier, I call him the courier, the package, the white pickup came out of the parking lot right next to him. The gray sedan came down Ballantyne right in front of him. So he was locked in. One more tidbit of information. At one point, they asked me to open the back door of the cottage, just before anything happened, before any courier arrived at him. Because if for some reason, if he decided to run around the house, they wanted to go out the back door. So it was all the...
but really well planned. I mean, they
Well,
knew what they were doing.
They were very professional.
Yeah.
That was one thing I'm very impressed with the Montgomery police. So that's my editorial for the police.
Right, and that they were well trained and...
Yeah, they were just calm and cool and again, professional.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is, I thought I had resolved the problem in chapter 1. Turns out he opened up chapter 2 by saying we need $15,000 cash from you. And finally, it ended with
Chapter 3.
chapter 3. The police came back the next day to fill me in on what had happened. And,
That was very nice.
That was very nice. 2 of them came back. They were very nice. So that's my...
So what did they do?
They just told me that they took him, he spent a night in jail. And that morning, the Friday morning, he went to the judge. And the judge released him with a court date.
So I wonder if he's coming back.
I have no idea.
Right. But that's the end of the story.
That's the end of the story, yes. The other part of the story is Mr. X, I call him Mr. X, didn't know what happened. The last thing he heard was the courier was leaving the car to go to the front door. The next thing that happened, he didn't know what happened about the package being grabbed and the man being arrested. He called me 10 times in a row. And the police said, do not answer, do not answer. And so he kept getting these phone calls because he had no idea what had happened.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't know, the thing had gone wrong.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. But then the policeman tried to block his call, and you couldn't block it. He said that could be an international call. Could be an international call. That I don't know whether that's true or not. I can't block an international call, but that was what they surmised, that he could have been overseas somewhere. Oh, by the way, the phone number that he called from was Seattle, Washington. But that could have been anywhere in the world.
Well, that's where you get the phone, I guess.
Well, and you can from anywhere in the world, you can get a number in the United States to use as an intermediate.
Right.
So anyway, I'm not sure what the moral of the story is, but I tried to do what the police asked me to do, and as far as I was concerned, it was an interesting adventure.
Well, I think the reason why we call it a cautionary tale and why you're here is that it really is a lesson. People can respond easily. That's why we tell stories to each other.
Sure.
To give you guidance of what to do or how to think about something. And of course, the first one, the lesson I hope everybody takes is don't go for any kind of spam.
Yeah, no, but the interesting thing, and
Scam.
This is thinking back, the first chapter, we'll call it chapter 1, they had no demands on me.
Right.
Other than information. They didn't ask for any money, they didn't ask me to do anything other than tell them very little. I let them know without realizing
But
what my
to
bank
develop your confidence in them.
Yes, that's a good point.
Right.
I was very impressed. I hate to say that. I was very impressed with the people I was dealing with.
Yeah.
They were very good.
So that's another cautionary tale. Just because they're nice doesn't mean they're
That's
good.
right, that's
so,
right.
Well, listen, thank you for telling us the story.
Does it make any sense?
It does. And I hope people see it as a lesson. I mean, that's why we tell these stories to each other.
Well, the police were
And
very
so-
happy for one reason. They've never been able to go all the way. Because it's happened, people call and say, I've just been scammed, but I hung up. Or I've just been scammed, and I don't want to quote the wrong number. I've just been scammed and I lost $49,000.
Yeah, right.
And so, and the story.
Yeah.
But so now they want to go all the way through.
The other thing I think we ought to remember too is that the police are really stewards of our safety and the law and so on, and they're respectable and professional. And maybe we hear other stories about other police, but the police are there to help you.
I was very
so.
impressed with the police.
Yeah.
But they were all in plain clothes, of course. There was
Right.
Yeah.
So, well, listen, thanks so much.
Well, I hope that makes sense.
Bob, for telling us the story. And as I say, I hope people see it as a cautionary tale. I hope that it'll be helpful to you in the future. So, thank you, and we'll see you again on Getting to Know You.